Suddenly the mainstream media is talking about UFOs a lot more. Suddenly our government is interested in declassifying a bunch of information, telling us that pilots have been seeing UFOs for decades.
I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
They're just now interested, the government is just now interested over the last 2 or 3 years in presenting that information to the public.
The U.S. does not shoot objects out of the sky every day.
The president is taking this very seriously. We are sharing as much information as we can.
The people that are in charge at the Pentagon are patriots, and they realize it's probably better, especially when you're dealing with the United States that's in this kind of turmoil. They'd be like, no one's even going to notice now. Just let it, say it now. Just say, yeah, we got UFOs.
We do want to make sure that the Americans understand that there's no need to panic.
Like, that could be our new normal. Okay, fuck masks. The new normal is there's alien spaceships that hover over every city and they tell you what to do.
I don't trust that. I think that that's really weird.
We truly have entered a dystopian world where the lines between fantasy and reality are becoming increasingly more blurred. And the topic we're going to cover today is an excellent sign of the times of how fearful people really are in the current political climate. But is there a good reason for it? As you may have already guessed from the title, today we're going to be covering the topic of Project Bluebeam and doing a deeper analysis into the wider implications of this theory. So I wasn't actually planning on doing this topic today, but I just keep seeing so much about this that I feel like if I don't sit down and film a video about it now, I might actually explode. So grab a cuppa and let's get started. According to conspiracy theorists, the processes described in Project Bluebeam are the necessary steps in order to achieve the New World Order. So the New World Order is a totalitarian world government which will have total control of all people in all countries in the world. The man behind Project Bluebeam is Serge Monast, a Canadian investigative journalist who in the 1990s started working on the themes of secret societies. In 1994 he published his book Project Bluebeam, which was inspired by the US Air Force's real-life investigations into UFOs.
Project Blue Book, which lasted all the way through 1969, was not to investigate anything. It was rather to explain it. To say, look, you guys think you don't understand this, but we do. We're the all-powerful government. We're the all-powerful CIA. We can explain this.
Some of the explanations they gave were so ludicrous that it was essentially like ridicule.
In 1996, Monast unexpectedly died of a heart attack at age just 51, which led his followers to believe that he may have been, if you know what I mean, because he was letting too much of the world truths go out. Monast's theory claims that NASA was working alongside the United Nations to create a new world religion with a false deity at the center of it, and that this was going to be achieved via 4 steps. Step 1 requires the breakdown of archaeological knowledge, which will be accomplished by faking earthquakes all around the planet in certain locations. This will lead to discoveries being made, so they might find, say, old scriptures or something like that, which will explain the fundamental errors in all of the world religions currently. Step 2 is where Project Bluebeam really gets its name. This will involve a ginormous space show in which 3D holographic laser projections will be beamed all over the planet. They will then use this to fake a second coming of God, and this will take shape in whichever deity is most prominent in a specific location. And this fake God projection will speak all languages. At the end of the show, the gods that are being shown all around the planet will merge into one god, and this will be the Antichrist. Remember the sandstorms all around the world earlier this year? Well, I've seen people point out that this may actually have been a distraction and a blockage of view in order for them to start setting up these laser projections. What do you think? Step 3 will then involve telepathic two-way electronic communication in which they're going to use low radio frequencies to make people think that God is speaking to them directly, telepathically. Next is step 4, and this is where the conspiracy theory takes an even wilder turn. So we've almost gone full cycle as a society where conspiracy theorists, and especially the ones that believe in Project Bluebeam, they're the ones that don't believe in aliens, and they believe that aliens are a concept made up by the government. So in step 4, this is where they're going to fake an alien invasion, and in this invasion, you guessed it, there is going to be one true savior, and this is going to be the new God, which is displayed in the sky, who's going to come to the rescue and make everyone listen to him. They also believe that the New World Order is going to fake a fake rapture like in Christianity, humanity, and they're going to have technology that is going to be able to lift people by the masses. So they actually claim that aliens don't exist, and all these alien abductions have actually just been tests in order to run this technology. Monast's book also detailed what's going to happen after this fake alien invasion. He detailed that people were going to be required to take an oath under Lucifer with a ritual initiation to enter the New World Order. According to the supposed agenda of the New World Order, they're looking to eradicate all religions and form their own new one religion with the Antichrist at the centre, and that way people are going to become more submissive in their beliefs and listen to nothing else other than this new world government. There have been some new viewers on my channel lately, so hi, thank you very much. You might be thinking, Izzy, do you have nothing better to do with your time than to sit here and research conspiracy theories all day? And honestly, no I do not. I probably should have more going for me at 25 than I do. But what can I say, life really came at me quick, and here we are. At the end of the day, these conspiracy videos I post are just for entertainment purposes. But on a deeper level, I really do believe that freedom of speech, the practice of critical thinking, and the ability to come up with our own conclusions and decisions is so important. Me personally, I've always been really interested in listening to other people's views, even if they completely differ to mine, and I generally like challenging myself to think from a new perspective and to open my mind, even if it does make me feel like I'm going a bit crazy sometimes. There is such a stigma around the word conspiracy theory, and people seem to group them all together and make it seem like if you believe in one conspiracy theory, you have to believe in them all. For me personally, I have never understood why people completely disregard conspiracy theories and won't listen to them just because they're called a conspiracy theory. Completely disregarding something because it goes against the traditional narrative and thinking that the government and news would never lie to you, in my opinion, is just as dangerous and ignorant as simply believing everything you read online. I do pride myself on this channel as trying to be as objective as possible and also providing a platform and a safe space for people of all sides of the argument to voice their opinion. Little rant before we go on to Project Bluebeam here, like there's nothing that I find more annoying is when people will just click on a video and just type, "This is stupid." I get a lot of those sorts of comments, but for me it seems like people just read the title and don't actually provide anything into the discussion. So again, if you want to leave a comment saying this is stupid, you are absolutely entitled to do that. But if you do that, like, do let me know why you think it's stupid. Like, I'm here to listen to all sides of the argument. I'm not here to push a narrative. And I recently came across a term which I think I've always sort of described myself as a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think that necessarily describes me the best because it's not like I believe in every single conspiracy theory. But I've seen a term lately which was called conspiracy analyst, and I think that describes me. Because I am just interested in reading about conspiracy theories and coming up with my own conclusions. So for the next part of this video, I encourage you to join me and indulge me in a bit of fun. Let's be conspiracy analysts together. For the next part of the video, let's take a look at some common arguments for and against Project Bluebeam. There's a website called Rational Wiki which basically exists to debunk pseudosciences and conspiracy theories. And a very good point it made was the fact that even if the world governments were to say hypothetically fake a new god, would this be enough to convince people to give up their religion? Like, I'm not religious myself, but I know a lot of people that are, and their faith is strong. You'd like to think people are more rational than just believing a false projection to be God. But on the flip side, there has been a lot of talk that people may in fact be that gullible. Believers in Project Bluebeam believe that the Antichrist is going to use something like a fake epidemic to gain total world control, and that this total world control is already begun with the process of COVID-19. I don't know if YouTube likes that word, but I'm sure you know what I mean. I can only speak for the UK, but here we basically gave up 2 years of our life for the greater good. Meanwhile, the politicians down in number 10 were seshing it up the entire time. Never forgive, never forget. It's completely unacceptable, for lack of better words. And let's face it, if these politicians were really so worried about the dangers of the virus, would they not be following the same restrictions that they were implementing themselves? So were the restrictions really there to control the virus, or were they there to control the people? In 1975, Gene Roddenberry accepted an offer from Paramount to develop Star Trek into a film. He proposed a story about a flying saucer hovering above the earth that was programmed to send people down who looked just like prophets, including Jesus Christ. Paramount rejected this storyline, so Roddenberry was back to the drawing board and came up with another concept for Star Trek. A book by Joel Engel titled Gene Roddenberry, The Myth and the Man Behind Star Trek was released in 1994, which funnily enough was not too long before the release of Serge Monast's book Project Bluebeam. There's been no evidence of any deliberate fraud from Monast's part, but even followers of Monast can't help but note the similarities between the plot, like they're nearly identical. People have also noted that in Monast's theory, the initial Project Bluebeam was meant to happen in 1995 and then 1996, and then when that didn't happen, it was meant to happen in 2000, and you know, we're still waiting on it. Conspiracy theorists are also analysing the world around us and claim that the government may be soft launching this holographic technology that is going to be used to stage the alien invasion and testing it right before our very own eyes. Take for example 2 clips that have recently gone viral in relation to Project Bluebeam. The first is a giant Barbie seen walking around the streets in Dubai. The second is from the American football team, the Carolina Panthers, who displayed a huge panther prancing around the stadium. The argument is that if the technology is already so advanced that you can see a live panther in real time destroying a stadium, just imagine how scary this would be if you weren't used to this type of technology and weren't expecting it if they were to stage an alien invasion. Like, you could think it was real. But sorry to burst anyone's bubble, there is a rational explanation to both of these clips which might not be as scary as we think. The Barbie, for example, was completely animated and not visible at all in person. They were getting calls and messages in Dubai asking where the Barbie was and if they could see her live, but in fact this was just a completely digitally edited video. It's a good job on the graphic designer's part because they obviously did an amazing job and convinced people. And John Slusser, the owner of the Famous Group who were behind creating the Panther, explained how they did it. It was created using live footage from a camera feed mixed with a pre-generated augmented reality called mixed reality, and it's called this because it seemingly interacts with the real-life environment around it. In short, you can see it in the stadium, but only if you're looking through the live broadcast by looking at a screen. You're not physically able to look down at it on the pitch or the field or whatever it's called in American football. But just because there's a rational explanation between the clips currently associated with Project Bluebeam, does this necessarily mean that we won't at some stage have the technology to fake an alien invasion on such a large scale? The German circus Roncalli is already paving the way with this jaw-dropping technology and is now using a mix between live performers and holographs of animals. The show has already been a huge hit with its audience, and they turned to holographs of animals rather than using the real deal because they were concerned for animal welfare in the circus industry and think that using live animals is now a practice that is completely outdated. So as a vegetarian and animal lover myself, I'm so happy to hear this. And even more impressively, 3 years ago, scientists from the University of Sussex invented holographs that you can hear and that you can feel.
The display is made up of an array of small ultrasound speakers that produce sound waves, LED lighting, and a 2mm bead. The sound waves keep the bead suspended in midair, and they can manipulate the bead's position. The bead moves around the display too fast for our eyes to see, so what we see is a 3D image. And remember, this is genuinely a 3-dimensional image. It doesn't just appear to have depth. That means it can be viewed from any angle.
Holographic technology is becoming increasingly more impressive and increasingly more interactive. I mean, check out the technology that a Silicon Valley startup released just earlier this year.
When I came in today, I wasn't sure what to expect. A basic hologram, if you can even say that, or a pre-canned demonstration. But what I got was incredibly cool. This is a real person being captured in light and projected into this space as a hologram that I can reach out and touch. And I gotta say, that's pretty impressive, isn't it?
For sure.
This hologram was small, about 10 inches across, created by a 28-inch panel. But Lightfield Labs says the panels are modular, meaning that one day it could put as many as 98 panels together to create a modular holographic video wall, 312 inches on the diagonal, generating 10 billion pixels per square metre.
There's no word yet on when you'll be able to see this tech out in the real world, and Lightfield Lab is still keeping its launch partners under wraps. But think places like theme parks, entertainment venues, maybe even retail stores one day. The company says this kind of technology could be used anywhere people want a next-level interactive entertainment experience that goes way beyond a 2D screen.
So is it that far-fetched to imagine that one day the technology to implement Project Bluebeam might exist? The topic of aliens has been something that's always been very hush-hush. Even former presidents such as JFK and Trump weren't allowed to know the full picture about aliens. So many people think that the real reason JFK was assassinated was because he was getting too close to the truth behind aliens. So is it just me, or is the topic of aliens becoming more and more prominent? I remember being so mind-blown about the whole alien talk back in 2020 through a Joe Rogan podcast with Post Malone. I am trying to be as objective as I can here, so I do want to preface this by saying that throughout the podcast they were blazing it up. I watched the full thing, and towards the end of it, it was becoming increasingly hard to follow because they were off their tits. But I will leave the clip in the description because I do definitely think it is a very, very interesting watch for the context behind this video. And they make some very good points about aliens in a post-pandemic world. And there's something that Post Malone said in this which blew my mind, and I could not believe I found this out through a stoned Post Malone. But back in 2020, the Pentagon literally declassified information that said that there are flying saucers or flying outer space objects that are on Earth which were not created by mankind.
I think the government withheld information for whatever reason. Maybe they think people are scared. Maybe they think it's a threat to the national security, to have a bunch of people worried that aliens are flying around us all the time. There's nothing we can do about it. Maybe they had a conversation and they thought maybe it'd be better to keep people in the quiet or keep them in the dark so that they don't freak out, because there's nothing we can do about it anyway. If we just tell them that there's aliens that are visiting us all the time, that's not going to be good. They're not going to pay attention to taxes and mortgage rates and the stock market. They're going to be like, holy fuck.
Uranium and
there's
shit
aliens.
like that.
They're around us all the time.
Yeah.
People are going to freak out. So I think little drops of the recent one they said, where they
what did the Pentagon just say?
Yeah,
literally two fucking days ago.
They've recovered crafts that are not from this world, not made on Earth.
Not made on Earth.
Yeah, not made on Earth.
Yeah.
They're basically saying we don't know what the fuck it is, but we didn't make it. That's bananas.
I'm sorry, what? Aliens are real? We have a spacecraft of theirs? This was revealed in a New York Times article, and as always, I will leave all sources in the description below if you want to deep dive into more. But honestly, I was like, what? Do you know what I mean? Who bloody built them? And in July this year, 3 whistleblowers testified in front of Congress to share their own personal experiences with UFOs, or as they're now referred to as UAPs. Did you guys know this, that the terminology has changed for UFOs? They're now called unidentified aerial phenomena. I didn't know we switched up the terminology, but let's get with the time. It's a long testimony, but essentially they said that pilots, especially in the military, see UAPs or UFOs all the time. And they're trying to fight the stigma for pilots in reporting these UFOs. So they say that it's literally these pilots' entire livelihood to be able to identify which objects they see in the sky. For security and all sorts of purposes, they need to know what it is flying around them.
I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand, and I'm here to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me. Today, I would like to highlight 3 critical issues that demand our action. As we convene here, UAP are in our airspace, but they are grossly underreported. These sightings are not rare or isolated, they are routine. Military aircrew and commercial pilots, trained observers whose lives depend on accurate identification, are frequently witnessing these phenomena. The stigma attached to UAP is real and powerful and challenges national security. It silences commercial pilots who fear professional repercussions, discourages witnesses, and is only compounded by recent government claims questioning the credibility of eyewitness testimony. Parts of our government are aware of more about UAP than they let on, but excessive classification practices keep crucial information hidden. Since 2021, all UAP videos are classified as secret or above. This level of secrecy not only impedes our understanding, but fuels speculation and mistrust.
So they are demanding more transparency from the government defence because they need more transparency for security purposes. They need to feel like their pilots are in a safe environment to report whatever it is they see without sounding crazy and without fear of losing their jobs. Conspiracy theorists for Project Bluebeam do not believe that all this alien talk is real. They think it is the government planting ideas in our minds slowly that aliens are possible, so that when they do eventually fake an alien invasion, it's going to seem more believable to the public. But you could also argue on the flip side that maybe it's not the government leaking all this information. I mean, to me, it still seems like they are trying to keep it hush-hush. I know the New York Times did release this article, but for me, and they do mention it in the Joe Rogan podcast I mentioned earlier, it was completely swept under the rug in terms of all the crazy 2020 madness that was going on. I personally have told so many people in my personal life that, yo, do you know that we've got a spacecraft on this earth that wasn't made by humans? And people are like, what? And I'm like, no, like, it's true. So you'd think that if the government wanted people to know about aliens more, they'd push it. You'd think it'd be like front page of every newspaper, headline of the news, but even things like the Congress testimony weren't like mainstream news. So I am intrigued to ask, and do let me know in the comments, how much alien talk have you heard recently? I am just on the weird side of TikTok and YouTube, and I'm thinking if you've ended up on this video, you might also be. But let me know if you've seen any alien talk in the mainstream news lately. Look, I'm not here to poke fun at the very, very real concerns that people have about Project Bluebeam. Like, I get it. These are crazy, unprecedented times, and the world's gone mad, and does anyone remember precedented times? Because I miss them. Did you know I was not always into conspiracy theories? Whoa, that might shock you. Yes, no, there was a time where I actually used to ridicule people for even entertaining the idea of conspiracy theories. So if you're a conspiracy theory hater, believe me, of all people, I get it. I know what it was like before the veil was lifted. Personally, I don't know if I believe that Project Bluebeam is ever going to happen in the exact steps that they've laid it out, mainly because Monast's theory doesn't seem to be based on a lot other than a rejected Star Trek plot. Like, it doesn't seem to have any real sources or evidence behind it. I also don't think the basis of it, that we could one day end up under the rule of a one world government, I don't know if that's far-fetched. If you look at all the individual pieces of the puzzle, I might do my own conspiracy iceberg video at some point because there's so much that links to other stuff, but do all the individual pieces of the puzzle hint to something bigger? So in conclusion, do I believe that there's ever going to be a faked alien invasion and a giant projection of God that will control the world? I don't know. But then again, if you told me 5 years ago I would have had to spend virtually 2 years of my life inside because of some giant super virus, I would have been like, of course not. That's like something that happens in a sci-fi novel. Of course that doesn't happen in real life. So at the end of the day, who knows? Many, many thanks for watching if you've made it to this part of the video. I have a feeling, and this is just a conspiracy theory of mine, but I have a feeling YouTube doesn't really like to push these types of videos out. It doesn't really like the algorithm. So if you did like this video and you know someone else who likes to rabbit hole down the weird side of YouTube, please do share this video about. It would mean a lot. As always, I'm looking forward to reading your comments below, so don't be shy. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.